Tell me what your life was like before you died.
I was a research scientist about 20 years on different contracts for Department of Defense, DARPA, UCLA, VA hospital, all working in conjunction together. And I was in a neural engineering lab. And so I worked with brain tissues. So I was a scientist and I thought in very scientific black and white terms of how things are and how they aren't, but by what we can prove, with scientific testing and instrumentation. So that was that. Everything was black and white in my world. I grew up in a very, very religious, Baptist home. We couldn't, it was really super strict. Around age 8, I had seen something that I didn't sit well with me, how my family was reacting compared to what they were saying in church. Didn't jive. That was the start of my black sheep status. But then I had a period of kind of my life falling apart and was just a total loser. At this point in my life, it's the worst iteration of me possible. I just completely lost my way and just a loser. I just had no motivation, nothing. I had a new kid. My daughter was almost 2 at the time. And I was just being a totally waste of space. And I was feeling a little sick. I didn't feel so great. I was getting dizzy and stuff. And, I thought I was having my cycle for a really long time. And I came out the day that this happened. I was I think I'm bleeding to death, guys. And I was joking about it, but not. And the next thing that I know, I'm in the hospital. So I guess I fainted right then. I guess that's when I found out that I had a blood transfusion thing happening, which was just terrifying to me because the idea of that was just really gross and to me, someone else's blood in my body. And it didn't dawn on me quite what was happening, other than that. And then I was told I had this ectopic pregnancy that had ruptured and caused internal bleeding. And I had lost half of my blood and they had to do this transfusion. And I was oh, okay. And I thought to myself, I'm fine. But then as soon as I thought that, it was my body felt I felt myself dying, 100%. I know for a fact that this feeling that came over me was death. And how it felt was so unmistakable and panic inducing, kind of, something was very wrong, very, very wrong. And I knew it. And then it was so intense. I felt I was going to literally explode. I felt there was so much tension building up from the inside out, inside of me. I felt I was going to pop, but it got to this point where it was too much. And I did pop, but only out of my body. And then I was out, I'm looking at myself laying in the bed and I watched the next few minutes of them, me coding and them trying to resuscitate me and stuff. Immediately I knew what happened. It was weird. And that's actually that thought that I had. I had this one profound, thought of when I realized that I wasn't in my body anymore and I'm looking at my body and I had no emotional attachment to it in any way, shape, or form. It was just a factual thing. That sucks. That was it. That's the only thing I said. And then at that point I was oh crap, I'm still me. My attitude's still here. My sarcasm is still here. Interesting. It was just very devoid of emotion, very detached from the human feelings and emotions that we're used to. I didn't have those. I realized it wasn't a big deal. But then I had this brief second of my kids, and that's the instantaneous. As soon as I said my kids, I was immediately 210 miles away where my daughter, Ashley, my oldest one, was in college taking a test. And I was in her classroom. I could see what she was wearing, her stressing out over there on her test, the time it was on the wall of the clock, behind her. And then I was immediately back at the hospital looking at my little one who's in the waiting room, playing Legos, whatever. And I was oh, fine. And then I went back into where I was with my body for a minute and just watched them stop working on me and give up on resuscitating me. And one of the guys, the younger technician or whatever he was, he said, we're going to stop now. She's only 30, whatever, he said, she's only in her 30s or something. And the doctor had made this offhanded comment about, what do you expect? She's a former junkie. And I was not a former junkie. That's not true. So that would make me mad, right? That normally would upset me that someone said that. I wasn't upset at all. I was just necessary. That was the thought that went through my head, was that necessary? But it wasn't upset and it wasn't even angry. It was just facts. I'm there and looking at my body and I'm standing to the right side of me, in the room. And so I'm looking to my right and I'm in the room. And then I noticed that if I looked over to the left, I wasn't in the hospital anymore. I was somewhere else. Looking one way, it took me somewhere else. It just was in this other place. And it was like a waiting, I don't want to say a waiting room because that's the best I can do though with the language that I have is it was like a room. And I knew it was somewhere I was supposed to be waiting for something to happen. There was no people. I didn't see any tunnel. There was no ghosts or spirits of dead relatives. I was just in this room. It was like lit up from some unseen light source. It was just like a waiting room, like no chairs or anything. So it was just a space, like a blank space. And so I went there and I didn't see anybody for a while, but I could feel stuff around me. Like there was a lot of things going on, but I couldn't see any of it. I could feel it though. And it was like, I was very aware that people, energy, souls, whatever, were all linked up together, like sharing data, like uploading their, like, I feel like if I had if I was staying, I would be linked up and like uploaded all my memories or something for that collective kind of, that's kind of what it felt like. I couldn't, and I was, at this point I realized I don't have a body, like for a while in the bed. It didn't dawn on me that like, hey, that was the body, so you don't have it now. You're just this form of ish. And it was huge. Like we are huge, we're very big, taking up tons of space, like so much space. And there is like an outline-ish to you, right? There's an edge of your consciousness, but it's not definable really by anything other than, it was like little pinpoints of light, I guess. Like it was weird. And I realized, wait, how am I seeing? Like I'm seeing 360 degrees, so I can see behind me. And I'm like, oh, right, because I don't have a head, because there's no bones in my head to block. Wait, there's no bone. I don't have a head. I have no eyes. So how the hell am I seeing? Like, so I was kind of a little bit perturbed. Not perturbed, but just like interesting. I guess I'll figure it out. And then all of a sudden there was a person standing in front of me that came out of literally nowhere. And it was a woman, and it was literally me. Just another iteration of me standing in front of me. Looked a little different though. Like her face was a little different, had worn different lines, like different expression lines and things like that. Like we'd had different experiences clearly, but it was me. And I just, like, I guess I knew what was going on. Because I didn't even question it. And then I heard that word, nope. That's it. Like I heard nope. And like that, I just knew what that meant. It meant, nope, you're going back. You know what's going on. And I looked back at my body and I was like, how am I going to fit in there? I'm so huge. And then I went into the belly button. I got shoved like back through my navel. Why? I don't know. Like that's so weird to me. And that's when I saw a tunnel. Like coming back in was when I saw a tunnel, and that hurt so much. It was very painful on the way back in, and that's what shot me up and brought me back. I was still hooked up to the machine. Like they hadn't taken off the leads. Everyone's back was turned to me. Like they were all filling out paperwork and stuff, and I just shot up. So there was no like warning beeps to let them know like I was coming back. I felt like, how I felt was like if someone had held my, like literally it felt like that somebody had my head underwater and was holding me underwater, and until the second I couldn't like take it, and I was gonna drown, like inhale water. Like I could not breathe because for 6 minutes I had no oxygen. So I was coming out of that and taking that first breath to like recuperate the oxygen I was deprived of for like 6 minutes. So it was loud and shocking, and it was very disorienting for me. And then the jumping around in the room and loud audible gasps were also stressful as well. And then I looked at the doctor and I was like, as soon as I could catch my breath, I said, did you say, like, she was former junkie? And he wouldn't answer me. He just looked at me like, I'm like, did you say that? Like, did you say that about me? Like, and I'm pretty sure he thought I was trying to like get him in trouble, but that wasn't my goal. I needed to know, did I actually hear that? Because upon coming back, it was very clear, like, oh my God, I just died. I knew what happened, and this can't be real because I don't believe in this at all. And so he can't have said that. Like, this can't be right. So I'm gonna ask him, and then he's gonna tell me, no, I didn't say that. That's just your neurons misfiring or whatever. He apologized, and he still thought I was trying to get him in trouble. He didn't realize he didn't get what I was trying to do, like, at all. I just need to know if you said it. Did I hear that? Like, did I hear it? And he's like, there's no way you could have heard that. Like, you were clinically dead. It changed my entire life, like everything about it. My entire life is different now. Like I stopped, like for instance, like I can't drink alcohol anymore. So I literally came back sober. Like that 6 minutes cleared me of a drinking problem. I tried and I couldn't, my body physically wouldn't take it. And I just was like, fine, forget it. Now I tried that before and it didn't work out, so this was weird. And the doctors couldn't tell me why. They're like, just take it as a blessing. Like at one point I remember laying on the couch and just thinking like, Carol, your life is a new kid. Like, what are you doing with yourself? Like you just died. Like it was really hard on me. Like, cause it was like all the stuff I've been avoiding, like all that hit me. Like I've got to take care of stuff. I can't do this anymore. Like I've got to get my life together. And then it was like I died, and I saw things like I existed past this. Like I don't know what happens after 6 minutes. I can only say for 6 minutes what happens, right? Like I don't know. Maybe it all goes nothing. It goes away. I can't tell you. But those 6 minutes were like, it was not cool. Like I was really upset about it and I still have a hard time with it actually, because it racks my brain. Like it's just a lot. It's a lot. If I went 38, 36, almost 4 decades of my life thinking one way, and to have that all shifted in 6 minutes is a lot to take in. It was like almost like a file, like a zip drive or something, because it keeps like things keep popping up in my mind now that like just out of nowhere I'll just know something or have some like revelation about something. So I've had paranormal experiences my whole life, despite the fact that I didn't believe in anything, like despite that I was like, nope, this doesn't exist. I had been tormented as a kid by like the house we lived in was so haunted and scary, but I would convince myself it was my imagination, right? Because that's what I was told. That's science. So I would deny all of these experiences I had all the time. And my family would also say like things like, don't act that way. If you're saying something, like telling somebody something was going to happen before it did, like you'd get in trouble. I'd get in trouble for that kind of stuff, like it's a bad thing. So I just would be like, it's not real. It's not, I brainwashed myself to believe nothing existed. Now I'm like, well, that's not true. So, and all the stuff they told me about tarot cards and things like that, like I was going to go to hell. And like I left, the one thing that I was very grateful for was all my Christian guilt of like my terror of like being judged and like burning in hell for eternity was completely murdered that day. Like, thank God. Like for me anyway, you believe what you want, but like, I know for me, I'm good. So I was like, thank you. So I don't have any guilt about being someone that reads tarot cards. I don't have any guilt anymore about that, which is something that was ingrained into me, like indoctrinated, like it was wrong, it was bad, it was against God kind of stuff. So that helped a lot. That was a very big benefit for me. And I'm much more myself now, like who I am, weirdo, like how weird and strange I am. And I'm okay with that. Like before I was hiding it all the time because it was against God. Well, that's the fight I had in myself this whole time. And like, that's why I was in such a bad way. Like the denying like of myself and my true like authentic self was causing such inner turmoil like within me that it was causing me to have addiction problems and depression and anxiety and things like that. And like that would never cross my mind to put those things together. I was like, have this, this dichotomy of like this side and this side, and they don't mix together. They can't. And now it's like I'm integrating all of that together and doing research on this stuff, like in a scientific manner. So like I've been able to now take both sides of that I love about myself, like the psychic stuff, the understanding now of what's real really on the other side, and be able to like marry those two with science, like, and it worked because now quantum physics and quantum mechanics, like it's become we can talk about it now, like, and it's being supported in actual mainstream science, which is amazing. One day, a couple months later, it was just popped into my head, like why it was that way and like why it was that, and that it's, don't stress about it. You're fine because you knew you weren't staying. You knew that. That's why you weren't upset. You already knew this was planned. You had already planned this was an exit strategy for you when your life got too off the rails. So for me, that's a big one now is I've done a lot of things with my life that don't match each other. Like, different jobs that I've had because I wanted to. And that, like for me, continuing on that path of like, once I get my interest sparked, that I go for it and I find a way to get into that thing and for however long that needs to happen. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to be old and sitting there wishing I'd done things with my life and I can't do them now. So like none of that. Like I am all about getting experiences in now and like not waiting for later. And but then the big one on top of that is to make sure that I'm giving back to other people. So I'm gonna help because that's my job, because that's why I was put through that. If you just go through stuff in life and then you're just like, and when it's over, you're like, whatever, and you just get to go about your business, well, happy for you. But like, that is not my path. Like I have got to be there to help facilitate for other people in order for me to have what I consider to be a fulfilling life. And it's we're here experiencing humanity and human emotions as this fragmented, one of 8 billion fragments of source, and it's like each individual drop of water, but like all those drops of water together form that sea of consciousness and understanding, and like that's what we are. So to learn to love yourself despite your flaws, despite all your shortcomings, and to learn to like be nice and kind to the people around you despite their shortcomings and their flaws. That's what it's about. We're not different. Literally, we're not different at all. We are different on the outside to your eye, but not on the inside. Everybody's exactly the same. We all come from the same place. We're all going back to the same place. So y'all need to get it. Stop being all twisted about your differences and like start looking at the similarities instead.